Good morning, gardening friends. It's Sunday, February 19th. Beautifully sunny day. And I'm fixing to have some breakfast. But I thought I would go for a walk with you around the yard, show you what's in bloom. I don't normally sit in this location at this table, but I had to today because the sun is such that it would have been right in the camera lens. Of course, you still get a nice view through the little archway. Birds are quite noisy because baby's visiting. Mimi was outside, but it's a little too chilly for her, so she went in today. This little topiary rosemary I planted 2 years ago. It hasn't really done much, but it hasn't died. So I guess that's a plus. My roses are doing really well here. I have to fertilize them. I haven't fertilized them yet this year. And as you can see, the beautiful oxalis is all over the bottom of that bed. It should be blooming pretty soon. That was being sarcastic. It's a weed. But you might as well enjoy it if it's there. You can't really fight it. We had a frost night before last, and it got down to 31. So I did put all of my plants in the garage, which you'll see later, or tucked them up against the house. I do see there's a few blooms on my witch hazel or loropetalum. I don't know if you can quite make that out. Normally I have more blossoms than that, but I did some late pruning this year, so I may have cut a lot of the buds off. It'll bloom a little later. This rosemary's been in that pot, and I covered it. I never brought it in for the real cold snaps for now about 4 or 5 years, and it seems to do well. What I do every year is I cut it down with pruners. I don't really cut it evenly, but what I do is I go deep into the bush and cut maybe about 1/3 of the bush down each year. Encourage it to spread out a little. As you can see, I did make that quiche that I was telling you about in the last video. It turned out pretty good. I called it a kitchen sink quiche. It had whatever I had in the house, so it has sausage and mushroom and onion, some green pepper, and some cheese. I'm not super wealthy. In case you wonder about the price of eggs these days, how can you afford to make a quiche? I do shop at Aldi's, and eggs at Aldi's right now are about $3.74 or 75 cents. It's about the best in town. So I bought me a couple dozen eggs and hence had to use them. I also had clams last week, which is why you see clam shells on tops of these pots. Oh, there's baby. I haven't put her food out yet, so I don't leave her food out because other animals might be encouraged to come. My Aunt Florence is the one that started me off putting seashells on top of plants. Aunt Florence is still around. She's in her 90s. Oh, Aunt Florence may be listening. She's in her 60s. And she and her whole family used to go to Florida when I lived up in New York. They'd go to Florida every year and they collected seashells. And she put seashells in every potted plant she had, both inside and out. And so I always wanted to do that. Growing up north, we weren't near the water, so we never really saw seashells other than going to Aunt Florence's house. Everything here is still looking the same as last time. I do want to focus in on this toad lily. It is big enough to divide. You can't buy them for some reason. No one sells them. I don't know if there are any bees working over this camellia today. These camellias have, oh, there is a bee in there. He's sort of just resting up in there. I always laugh, there's Gulf Coast Butterfly Garden. If you're into butterflies, you may want to go ahead and watch her show, or that show, I should say. Rachel runs it. I do love biblical names. Let's see, it's early in the morning, but let's see. Rachel in the Bible, what was she? She was the daughter of Laban, wife of Jacob, and mother of Benjamin and Joseph. Yeah, I think I got it. But be that as it may, little quiz of the day. She gardens for butterflies and bees. She's also in Alabama, but she's in a 9A. She's more coastal than I am. I'm in an 8B. I garden more for slugs and cockroaches. Probably because my garden is so shady. Not much activity here. The Lenten rose has not yet opened, but it's still there. My colocasia that I got that came across the fence last year, it was planted here, and I noticed there is a new shoot here. I do need to dig that up, and it'll get about 4 feet tall, and I don't want it overwhelming the other things here, so I do need to keep it in check. And way under here, I don't know as if you can make it out. Let's see if I can uncover it. These are ground gingers. I do like them. They seem to be doing well there. That was another one of those plants, besides the Lenten roses, that Horticulture magazine said would grow in my zone 8B. And so I put them there, and they're doing fabulously well, but I can never see them unless you bend really, really down low. I didn't bring any of these potted plants in for the frost. This bay tree is still, I just bought that this year, so I'm not expecting it to do too much, but I do need to go ahead and cut that long branch down. Let's see what's going on in here. Here's where I have all my plants that I saved from the cold. I do need to bring this amaryllis in the house because it's in full bloom. The one in the house now is starting to look a little straggly. And I had told you all in the last video about this poinsettia blooming. Not spectacular leaves or flowers yet, but actually, technically, they're bracts. The flowers are down within. They haven't quite opened yet. But that I didn't do anything to. I hesitate to even mention it, but, you know, it was a throwaway plant that I just kept from 2 years ago. I didn't fertilize it. I didn't do anything. It's still in the same foil wrapped container it was in. All I did was throw a little water on it once a week. And I did try growing some dill from seed, and it is old seed, but I was expecting more than one little pitiful plant to grow. I don't have a lot of luck with seeds. Of course, here's where the pitcher plant is in for the cold. My ground orchids have all sprouted up. They should be sending up flower buds pretty soon, and I'll move them to the front porch. This is the fiddly fig that I got just recently, and you can see all the new growth. You can see the brown edges. I got it from Lowe's. It was one of the sale plants because they leave their plants outside, and it got hit in the real big frost a few weeks ago. And this is just where these things live. Oh, I did want to show you, although the plant is looking a little pitiful, my golden chalice vine has surprised me with one more flower. I wish you could smell it. It smells a little bit of like a sweet coconut smell. And there's a fruit from the last flower. It does look a little pitiful. The leaves fall off in the first thing in the spring. and then it'll have a new flush. It'll look just nothing but sticks for a month or so, and then it'll send out new growth. I don't know if that seed pod is going to affect things any. We'll see. Here you can see the cuttings of my white angels trumpets. They really didn't even lose a leaf, surprisingly enough. So what I did is, of course, stuck them in water for about 3 weeks and then stuck them in the ground. Well, I planted them very carefully in the ground. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I'll find a spot. And those other plants, Iachroma, not so much. In fact, they're getting a little fungus on the bottom. I think I will go ahead and throw them out. But it was worth a shot. And I don't know as if you can see, but way in the back, I've got a Venus flytrap there. I keep that, normally I keep it on the front porch. And it was a beautiful plant, sent up a flower last year. And then it just suddenly, catastrophically died in the fall. And then I looked it up online. It's amazing what you can Google. If you have any gardening questions, by all means, Google it. But I did find out that Venus flytraps do go into dormancy. So it wasn't dead. I just stuck it out here where I wouldn't have to look at a pot with a little moss. I didn't plant that moss, by the way. The moss seems to be natural for me in this Zone 8B north-facing back garden. It grows on everything by itself. I don't have to do anything to it. I remember when I first put in my little stone wall that meanders through here, I remember reading, I think it was from Martha Stewart, that said you could make a concoction of moss and yogurt and all other kinds of stuff, which, by the way, if you put it in your good blender, is going to really stick up your blender. And then you paint it on your whatever you want to grow moss. I don't think it worked. And it did mess up the blender. But it's a little Clorox will clean it up. Just the next milkshake may be a little off. This little fountain is still doing okay. I got that fountain at an antique shop. You don't see fountains very much. And of course, I like seashells. I already told you about that earlier. I got that for my birthday 4 or 5 years ago and didn't know what I was going to do with it. So I figured, well, temporarily, let me just get a dishpan and put it in the ground until I figure out what to do with it. I kind of like it the way it is. I might someday get a larger basin for it because you can't really leave it running in the heat of the summer. The water eventually evaporates out and will probably burn up the pump. I don't think much is new over here. Definitely the frost that came didn't seem to hurt anything here. And that bromeliad that I couldn't think of the name of last time, it's doing fabulously well. I did see on one of the YouTube videos where they grow bromeliads in Florida, they don't even put them in dirt. They basically just put them in, I guess you call it choir, C-H-O-I-R. It's the same stuff that mat is made out of in my window box. You just need something for the roots to wrap around, but they get most of their moisture from the little cups inside. And all those are pups from the previous year. So that's, hadn't touched it. It's been in that pot now for, I want to say 4 or 5 years. It's just a beautifully sunny day. And I'm getting a little hungry now. My stomach is starting to growl. Oh, there's baby. She's getting hungry too. Are you hungry, baby? Say hello for your close-up. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. It's amazing how this loquat has changed the character back here. This used to be an extremely sunny spot. Now it only gets western exposure for sun at night. It's a nice place to sit here and watch the sun go down, as much as you can in a city. Not much activity on my newly planted strawberries. They were, of course, bare root. You can see a little bit of a sprout there. I think the frost may have gotten to the buds that were... No, they still have flowers. So I will have a few strawberries. I don't get a lot out of the strawberry pots, but I get enough to nibble on. Probably if I fertilized them and watered them. You do have to water things in these strawberry pots. But if I was a little more assiduous at doing that, I probably would have more strawberries. Well, that's about it for this morning. Both baby and myself, I think, are going to go ahead and have our breakfast. Hopefully no birds have touched my quiche. I guess I'll have to microwave it again. But have a good day. Till next time.